Welcome to our training on the Affordable Care Act reporting steps. By March 31st, 2016, all applicable large employers and anyone offering self-funded medical insurance plans are required to provide Form 1095 to any employee who was full-time for 1 month or more during 2015. They will then submit a copy of these documents to the IRS along with a 1094 transmittal form by May 31st if done by mail, or by June 30th if done electronically. During the next few minutes, I'll walk you through how to complete these documents. My objective is to help you get through this process in an easy step-by-step fashion, helping you to meet all the requirements. I'm Ken Spencer, President and CEO of HR Service. We're a provider of benefit compliance and HR solutions. Before we begin, I have a couple caveats. Talk to all experts you have at your disposal. It's the first year, so it's going to be a learning year. Labor attorneys, benefit brokers, CPAs, HR software providers, payroll partners are all going to have different kinds of knowledge. I'd exploit that. We provide you with everything needed to meet the requirements. It's a good idea to use all resources available to you. To provide you a little background, we now have two new IRS sections, 6055 and 6056, that outline requirements for applicable large employers and self-funded plans to meet the shared employer responsibility provisions, providing minimum essential coverage, minimum value at affordable rates. These provisions further outline reporting requirements, which will be the focus of our discussion today. In essence, ACA reporting is simply providing required forms to the IRS and sending copies to full-time employees. The first step is making sure if you even need to complete the ACA reporting documents at all. If you have 50 or more full-time equivalent employees during 2014, or if you offered a self-funded plan, you're required to report. This applies to all entities, even government and nonprofit organizations. It's important to consider if you're part of a controlled group, because the total of all controlled group members is taken into consideration to determining the 50 full-time equivalent or full-time employee threshold. So all businesses where an owner has 80% or more ownership, or where 5 or fewer common owners have 80% control, they would be considered part of a controlled group. All right, step 2, determine which ACA forms to complete. Or if you are an applicable large employer, use forms 1095C and 1094C. If you offer a self-funded plan and have less than 50 employees, use forms 1095B and 1094B. Now, this discussion on completing forms will focus on 1095C and 1094C, the most common forms. There are two alternative methods of reporting under 6056 that were developed to minimize costs and administrative hassles to some employers. The alternative methods are reporting based on certification of a qualifying offer or an option to report without separate identification of full-time employees. If certain conditions apply or satisfied, then you can use these options. Now, we'll cover these in greater detail when we go into 1094C documents. But if you think this might apply to you, or you may want to go this route, we recommend you review the detailed instructions to learn more about this approach. Step 3 is determining which sections of 1095C to complete. Complete sections 1 and 2 if you're an applicable large employer with a fully insured plan. You complete all 3 sections 1, 2, and 3 if you offer a self-funded plan. Here's a copy of 1095C showing all parts 1, 2, and 3. And notice for self-funded plans, which would be section 3, you would need to provide more detailed information on dependents, such as their names, social security number, dates of birth, and the months they were covered. Again, that only applies if you have a self-funded plan and you're an applicable large employer on this form. Step 4, determine which employees are to receive Form 1095. Provide a 1095 to anyone who is considered a full-time employee for 1 full month or more during the year. Now, definition of full-time employees is those who average 30 hours or more work time during the month. Make sure you include all the required work time when doing those calculations. Also provide the 1095 to any part-time employee if they were covered on your medical plan. All right, step 5, we're now ready to begin pulling together the data needed to complete the reporting documents. So hopefully you already have this information together through your payroll or HRIS system. I'll briefly outline the data by referencing each of these sections. In Part 1 of the 1095-C report, you'll need basic employee and employer information. For employees, you'll need the employee's full name, social security number, and address. For the employer, it asks for the employer's name, EIN, address, and telephone number. Section 2 is the most complicated area of 1095-C, as it requires you to reference a table of codes for question 14, where you report on the type of coverage offered, and in question 16, where you show any applicable safe harbors. Question 15 is where you report on the employee share of monthly premium costs for the employee-only minimum value coverage. Let's go into more details on these sections now. Enter 1A if you provide a qualifying offer, meaning you offered minimum essential coverage, minimum value at affordable rates for the employee, the spouse, and dependents. Now, for many employers, this might be their strategy to try to simplify if they can offer a 1A for everyone. Read each of the codes summarized here, and then refer to the instructions if you need more details. If the same code applies for the entire year, enter this under all 12 months section in that column. Otherwise, enter the code that applies for each month. In line 15, enter the cost of the employee share of the lowest cost monthly premium for self-only minimum value coverage. If you've used 1A, a qualifying offer in question 14, then you leave this blank. You've already answered this question given that you said it was affordable. To calculate the employee share of premium, calculate the annual cost for the employee-only coverage for the lowest minimum value plan, divide this by 12. Then enter the amount in the appropriate months, or if it was the same amount for the entire year, enter it in the all 12 months column. For question 16, enter the applicable code, if any, where a situation applies to employee offering some sort of relief or a safe harbor. So use code 2C if applicable, even if any other code might apply. As you can see, code 2C reads the employee enrolled in coverage offered. Now, you'll need to look at each full-time employee situation and enter the code that applies for them. It could be different employee by employee. So similar to questions 14 and 15, if the same code applies for each month, enter it in the all 12 months column, or enter the applicable codes month by month as needed. As previously mentioned, Part 3 only applies if you're an applicable large employer offering self-funded plans. Otherwise, leave this section blank. It'll be reported by the insurance providers. So if this applies to you, here you'll need to enter the names, social security numbers, dates of birth, and months covered for all covered individuals. Are you now ready in step 6 to complete 1095-C? So refer to the provided ACA reporting instructions, or the actual IRS instructions as needed, and start filling out that document. You're now ready to dive in and complete that document. All right, once your 1095s are complete, you're ready to mail them to full-time employees identified back in step 4. So make sure these are sent no later than March 31st, 2016. If you have them ready by January 31st, feel free to include them with your W-2s or send them separately. Normally, this is going to be required by January 31st. But they've extended it this year by 2 months. That extension will likely not apply in future years. All right, we're now shifting our attention to Form 1094-C, which is the transmittal document that goes to the IRS along with copies of the 1095 documents that you gave to the full-time employees. Now, if you have 250 or more employees, you're required to complete this form electronically. And so step 8 is completing 1094-C. Now let's look at the information requested in this report. Part 1 is primarily the primary contact information for the employer for questions 1 through 8, and then 15. The contact person shown should be someone within your organization who can speak authoritatively on any questions about the forms. Questions 9 through 14 only apply for government entities, and then you'll leave question 17 blank. And 18 is where you list the total number of 1095 documents that were submitted. Now make sure your address lines up with the employer address used on the 1095C documents you gave to employees. Now, some employers with multiple divisions, they may choose to report by division, possibly sending in multiple 1094C documents. Well, at least one of the 1094Cs must be the authoritative transmittal for the organization. So simply check the box in 19 if this is your authoritative transmittal. Then complete parts 2, 3, and 4 to the extent possible. So if the answer is no, sign the form at the bottom of the page 1 and leave the rest blank. Enter the total number of 1095C forms submitted in line 20. As the authoritative transmittal, you're going to represent all the forms 1095C associated with your EIN on any other 1094Cs that you might have already submitted. So if during any month of that the employer was a member of an applicable large group or controlled group, check yes in 21. If no, don't complete part 4. In line 22 shows options for the alternative simplified reporting methods you may claim here. So 2 alternative methods of reporting where you've got the qualifying offer method or the qualifying offer method transition relief. Now, if you have options for transition relief related to safe harbors under the 4980H and 49% offer method, you would check those boxes. So if you're claiming safe harbors this year, you would check the box C for the section 4980H transition relief. Keep in mind, under the certificates of eligibility, it may be appropriate to claim more than one. And I'll go into more details on each of these certifications of eligibility now. Qualifying offers where the employer provides an offer of minimum essential coverage at minimum value at affordable rates to the employee, their spouse, and dependents. I'll reference the instructions if you have questions on how to calculate the affordability. You'll see you have 3 options there for safe harbors where you, in calculating for the self-only coverage that provides minimum value could not be greater than 9.5% of the employee's W-2 wages, or you could use federal poverty level or the rate of pay. So choose one of these options and apply it consistently as you review that throughout your each of your employees. The 9.5 affordability percentage will be adjusted by inflation each year. An applicable large employer member reporting under the certifications of qualifying offers method may furnish a simplified statement to the employee rather than furnishing a 1095C if they meet the requirements. So this option is not available to anyone offering a self-funded plan. So if you qualify for the simplified qualifying offer, you could give each of the employees a 1095C, or simply give them a statement containing the employer's name, address, EIN, contact name, telephone number, and a statement for all 12 months of the calendar year, showing that the employee and his or her spouse and dependents received a qualifying offer, and therefore they're not eligible for a premium tax credit. All right, to be eligible to use the qualifying offer method transition relief, you must certify that you made a qualifying offer for 1 or more months of the calendar year to at least 95% of your full-time employees. If your employee size was 50 to 99 during 2014, you have transitional relief to not be required to provide coverage for 2015, although you still have to submit the ACA reporting requirement for the 1095 and 1094 documents. You can check this box if this applies to you, or if you qualify for relief for the calculation of accessible payments under 4980H for applicable large employers with 100 or more full-time employees. I'm going to reference you to section 4980H for additional details there. To be eligible for this method, the 98% offer method, an applicable large member certifies that it offers for all offered for all months the calendar year affordable health coverage providing minimum value to at least 98% of its employees for whom it's filing the 1095-C, and offered minimum essential coverage to those employees and dependents that may qualify for simplified reporting procedures. The employer is not required to identify which of the employees for whom it's filing were full-time employees, but the employer is still required to file Form 1095-C on behalf of all of its full-time employees. In Part 3 of 1095-C, if you offer minimum essential coverage for all 12 months to at least 95% of your full-time employees and dependents, check yes in line 23, or no if applicable. In B, enter the number of full-time employees that don't include anyone in a limited non-assessment period, also called a measurement period. In C, enter the total number of employees. Now this time, count those in the non-assessment period, part-timers and seasonal. Now if you selected box D on line 22, the 98% offer, then you don't need to fill out column B. In column C, enter your total number of employee count. Column D, if you checked yes to line 21, meaning you were part of an aggregated group or controlled group, and check the box for each of the months of the year that this is applicable to your organization, or if it applied for the whole year, all 12 months. For column E, only fill this out if you selected box C in line 22 for transitional relief under 4980H. If you have under 100 employees, enter code A. If over 100, code B, showing the type of relief for which you're eligible. If you're part of a controlled group, the aggregated applicable large employer section 4, enter the information about your sibling organizations here. Otherwise, you'll just leave this blank. And you include up to 30 organizations. If you have more than 30, use the highest average monthly employee count for those and pulling out those top 30. And the final step is to submit Form 1094-C along with copies of all 1095-C documents to the IRS. This must be done by May 31st for paper copies or by June 30th if sending them electronically. If mailing your 1094s and copies of the 1095 documents to the IRS, find your state and determine which address you would mail them to. So you notice you've got the different states here, and then it shows the address. If you find your state and your address over here. All right, if you fail to submit your documents in a timely fashion, you will be subject to a penalty of $250 per return. Now, for this first year, there will be no penalties as long as you put forth a good faith effort to complete the documents and do so within the deadlines. As part of your service, you have access to written step-by-step instructions and detailed instructions and other materials to help you. If you need help beyond the provided ACA reporting toolkit, feel free to call us at 855-447-3375, extension 1, to speak with one of our ACA professionals. Calls are outside of this package. $3 per minute per investment with a 10-minute minimum per call. We hope this training and other provided tools will help you understand the steps to complete your ACA requirements and help you be compliant. Thank you very much.